Hi everyone, welcome again to Business English. My name is Catherine Carpenter and I am one of the instructors for this course. So while communication can span many different means and mediums that we can look at, our focus for this course is actually going to be on writing. And that's because we always need to be really methodical and thoughtful when we put together written communication because it's in writing. So we need to make sure that what we develop is really well thought through and prepared, and it needs to be sort of meeting the needs of both ourselves as the communicator as well as the one receiving the information. So let's talk about the writing process. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you've written something and then you realize that the person who received it didn't understand what you said or what you meant, or it was misinterpreted, or perhaps it actually turned into something that ended up being a bit of a problem? This happens all the time, and that's because we don't engage in the first part of the writing process, which is planning. So we need to be really thoughtful about how we plan our messages. Now, planning includes many things. It's not just what we need to say. It also considers the timing of when we should say it, as well as how we need to structure our message. So different messages have different types of structures, and this is something that we can get into throughout the course. But just for now, think about when you're planning your message, even if it's a very sort of quick response by email or even text, how this should actually be structured so it reduces the potential for confusion for your actual receiver. So once you've developed your plan with how you're going to structure your information, as well as consider all of the content that you need to provide, all of this is planned out, then you need to actually write it. You need to draft the content. And so once you write it, you want to make sure, again, that you hit all of the points that you need to cover. You're presenting it in the order that makes the most sense for your reader to understand. And I'll talk about that in a second. And again, you're covering all your bases and providing them with the opportunity to respond. That's usually pretty important, especially in business communications, that you provide whoever you're sending the note to, or the information, the email, the report, whatever it might be, you're providing them with the opportunity to respond. Now let's just talk for a second about how to present information logically. Now, from a Canadian business perspective, things are usually done in a fairly logical, fact-based approach. And so when we're presenting information to someone, either again by email, report, memo, all sorts of different means of written communication that we provide and use in the business world, we want to start with the context. So start with the context of the situation, the reason why this information is being shared. Then once you set the context, then you want to get into the complication or the problem. And then this is why essentially you're writing the email or providing this information. So with the context set, so the person can understand sort of the background of why this is happening, and that can be even half a sentence, something very quick. Then you get into the complication. So this is why you're engaging the person. This is why you need their input. This is what's come up. And then once you provide the information regarding that, complication or problem, and it doesn't have to be a big problem, it could just be a decision that needs to be made, then you want to get into the question and answer. And the question is usually, what do we do about this problem given the situation that we're in? And then with that in mind, then you go to the answer. And so your answer is either a recommendation that you're making, or again, you might be asking for advice or input on whatever the case may be. Now, when you're structuring your written communication and documentation in whatever, again, format you might be using, even texts, this is actually a really sort of thoughtful way to approach your content. Again, you want it to flow logically. You want the person to have enough information to be able to respond in an informed way. And so that's why we need to be really thoughtful when we're not only planning, but then actually also developing the content that we're providing. So once you've planned out, and that's part one, then in the writing process, and then you've got part two of actually writing out the content. And again, it could be something as lengthy as a thesis. It could be something, as sort of deliberate as a report that requires a decision or a memo, a briefing note. It could be an email, because think of how many emails we engage in every day. Or it could be something, again, as simple as a text or a message over a work messenger type of software. So once you've done that, the third and final stage is to review. Review, revise, edit. Make sure you actually look over what you've written. The number of times that I've sent out emails with either grammatical errors or spelling errors, or name errors even, it's embarrassing. So you want to make sure that you actually take at least a moment to review and revise and proofread your content to make sure that what you've said sounds right from a reader perspective, and that you haven't missed anything, and that, again, things flow logically and you've covered all the points. It also gives you a second to pause and just make sure that you haven't, again, missed anything. So as you're going through and writing up that content, your review could even be something as simple, again, if the content isn't long, the review doesn't take that long. So it's just sort of a cursory review. It also helps if the opportunity allows to have a second set of eyes. So if you can get someone else to help out with the review, that's usually a good thing to do if you have the opportunity and chance. So the first stage in the writing process, you've got your planning. Your second stage is actually developing the content and getting it written out. And then the third phase is revising and reviewing. So if you have any questions about the writing process, please always feel free to reach out to either Dennis or I. We're here to help you and support you in this learning process. But if you have any questions, as always, just reach out.